Good evening, everybody, and we are just after 7. Myself and Catherine are here. We're really looking forward to sharing lots of tips, hacks, and insider definitely. Catherine's a former recruiter, so she's got the career coaching side of things, but also the really practical recruiter kind of perspective on all of this. So we're looking forward to sharing lots of really useful and practical tips tonight. Just to introduce Catherine quickly, first of all, myself, I'm Evelyn Cotter. I'm the founder of 7 Career Coaching. And Catherine is Catherine Mante, former recruiter, now a career coach, and also I think you do many things, holistic things like meditation and fabulous, wonderful holistic things to sort of balance out the career stuff. So what we're going to be doing tonight, we've just kind of gone through a lovely kind of outline for you. So Catherine is going to start with looking at the why. I mean, obviously at the moment with COVID-19, everything has moved online. But even before COVID-19, you know, one of the biggest tools you have for changing career, getting a better job, getting promoted, developing your personal brand, starting a business, getting your first client or getting more clients, whatever your objective is, LinkedIn is just really handed to us on a plate. It's just learning how to really optimize it, maximize it, and use it to your advantage. And I think a lot of people, and you might agree with this, Catherine, a lot of clients we see just kind of do the bare minimum, put the profile up, and kind of aren't really sure how to really, you know, get the maximum benefits from it and really use it as a tool, as it is a bit of a secret weapon if you know what you're doing. So that's kind of our aim tonight, is we're going to be telling you exactly what we talk through with our clients, and Catherine will be giving you her inside scoop. So just before we sort of hand over, I'll go through what we're going to be covering. So a few things. The why is obviously always important to everything in coaching. It's always about understanding, you know, why you use online networking, where it's, you know, important, when it's important to use it, and maybe there's other times where it's more like in person might be more relevant, but tonight we're focusing more on the online part. Good practice is a lot of good practice about just how you word and format your profile, your picture. Just before we went live, we were looking at pictures and just talking a little bit about that. That's, you know, picture says 1,000 words, and it's so true. How to optimize your profile as well, and kind of, you know, especially if you're looking for a job, you want to be found in good searches. How to go about networking. One of the biggest questions we always get asked is actually around, how do I approach people? How do I message people? And Catherine has a great strategy for that she'll talk you through. And then things like posting content. Catherine mentioned, and you know, it's something we always recommend, is can you show yourself as a thought leader? How can you showcase your knowledge, your experience, your skill set? Posting content is a great way of doing it. You can write, you can video, you can comment on other people's and contribute. And then we've got the really fun part that I love personally is the techie part, which is the different apps. At 7 we use a really amazing, it's a Chrome extension. It's an app that you can add on to LinkedIn, and it's really, really useful. We actually put all of the coaches that we recruit.
Really addictive as well. Once you have one look at it, you want to use it all of the time. It's like a personality predictor.
And you've also, it's a personality predictor, and it also
freakishly accurate.
Tells you how to communicate with different personalities, and a little bit more actually. There's more to it. But I'm kind of so excited by tonight. I love all of this stuff. So, Catherine, without further ado, do you want to sort of take it away and kind of talk to us really about why is LinkedIn and online networking so relevant right now, and you know, how can people use it while they're in quarantine to move their careers forward?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. So a bit annoying that I can't see people, you know, in the age when we're missing human contact. I hope you're all keeping well and keeping your immune system up. And like Evelyn was mentioning, I think this is a great, one of the best times to really learn and leverage the power of networking on LinkedIn, and also, you know, with your personal connections. And the reasons for that are, so I would recommend people using LinkedIn extensively for their job search in any time, but now it's more important time than ever. And the reason for that, like I usually see a lot of eyebrows being raised when I give people statistics that about 75 to 80% of all the jobs in the market get filled in through people's network, through either someone reaching out to them or through people in that organization, and only 20 to 25% of jobs actually make it to online job boards and recruiters. And by the time they make it there, the competition is already so high. That's why many of you, if this is the only approach you're using in finding a new job, you may feel like you are sending applications into this black box and never, very rarely hearing back from it. So I think now it's more important than ever to rethink how you approach the search. And I'd recommend using LinkedIn in any time, but I think now is more important than ever for this specific reason. And now even more so, you'll be able to develop way more opportunities through going by LinkedIn or other networking platforms, but I think specifically LinkedIn for your career. Also, particularly because there's a lot of people who have more time right now, and they seem to be engaging more. So there are some people, for example, like Evelyn and I, we seem to have more work than ever because people are really actively looking for jobs right now. But there are a lot of organizations for whom it's a bit of a slower period, and they are just being more responsive to people reaching out to them or asking for help. So this is a great time to do that. It's a great time to ask people just for some information on those companies. We call them informational interviews. That's before you actually ask them if there are jobs available, or directly ask them for positions within their companies. So I hope that's clear. So if you want to just drop in the box, like, what are you taking from this? Why? Maybe other reasons why it is so important to really nail your networking tactics on LinkedIn in this time. So we'd love a little bit of interaction from you as well.
Yeah, it would definitely be great to everyone here if you want to share this scenario that you're in. So if you're looking to change career, if you've been recently made redundant, you're looking for a new role, or you're looking to take advantage of this opportunity to change role, it's good for us because it helps us kind of direct the conversation to make it as relevant to you as possible. So Catherine, in terms of, the basics with LinkedIn, what are the basics? I think a lot of people get the basics wrong, which, especially if you're reaching out cold, for an informational interview. And I'm assuming everyone watching kind of understands the basis of an informational interview. It's when you reach out into maybe your network or your associated network, or it can just be completely cold, and you're looking to speak to somebody in a profession or an industry or an organization that you're interested in entering and learning about. It's not something that you use to ask for a job. It's really initially about fact finding and using it also to extend your network, of course, into a new industry. But Catherine, what are the basics that you think people need to start with before they start reaching out or implement any strategy like that?
Yeah, so basically it's a good idea to do some preparation before you actually get onto LinkedIn, because as you know, LinkedIn has millions of people and connection on it. So you can also just completely lose yourself in this sea of options of people to contact. So where I would recommend you to start is by spending some time thinking what sort of job titles, 2 to 3 job titles that you want to apply to as your next step, as well 2 to 3 types of companies that might be in the same sector. So you may look at, say, applying for banks, fintech companies, and something else in the financial sector, or you might be open to considering opportunities across different sectors. So really narrow this down, and before you get any further, just make an Excel spreadsheet and create these 3 buckets of opportunities. The opportunity number 1, so I call them actually plan A, B, and C. And so for each one of those, decide on what's the job title, more or less, and what is the type of company or sector that you're applying in. And have yourself those 3 options written out and thought through before you even start looking anywhere. And once you've decided on what of those 3 types of career options that you're going after, I would recommend starting to fill in your Excel spreadsheet with the types of companies in those 3 fields that you would like to make the applications to. So you can use Google, you can use LinkedIn for it, but don't start reaching out to people unless you've done that thinking and you filled in that Excel spreadsheet with 10 to 15 companies per each career option. And only then to go to LinkedIn. And at that point, I would recommend looking at your LinkedIn profile, having a look and making sure that your LinkedIn profile looks in tip-top condition for, because when you're reaching out to people, they will come and have a look at your profile, if that's relevant to the industry, if that's relevant for the job that you are potentially applying for. So make sure that you reviewed your profile and it's in a great state. I mean, obviously there are a lot of recommendations online on how to do that. We can actually go and explore. We had a couple of people send us their LinkedIn profiles to review from this chat today. So we can go and do that. But I just wonder, like, so far, does anyone have any questions in terms of how you narrow down your options of people who you're going to be applying to on LinkedIn? So actually, there's one point I forgot to mention. So once you have this list of companies, 10 to 15 companies per each career option bucket, you want to start doing a bit of research. So populating those companies with 3 to 4 people per each company. So in the end, you want to end up with kind of about 100 people on your list across those 3 different career options. And
Catherine, sorry to interject, but just because I want people to be really, really clear on this. So what you're suggesting before you reach out to anybody, you obviously need to get your direction focused. I just really want to emphasize your strategy because I think it's really important people start at the start. So essentially what you're saying is create an Excel spreadsheet, have 3 very clear directions, so 3 clear roles that you're looking for. And also I think it's worth saying that in different companies, the same role can be called different things. So make sure you do your research and focus.
I think this will come up as you're researching these companies. You'll be able to see that in some places it's called, sales, and the other business development, in the other head of community or whatever, partnerships. But the point is that you're clear more or less of what function you want to play in that company.
And then so you what you suggest is, and we always actually use the rule of 3s, don't we? I think in coaching, but you have 3 distinct roles. This is just kind of generic, but I think it's helpful for most people. And then per role, you then have 10 target organizations, 10 to 15 target organizations per role, and then per organization, you research and you find 3 to 4 people that you would like to contact for informational interviews within each organization. So as you said, you should end up with a spreadsheet that has about 100 contacts for contact. This is the groundwork. So I think what we see a lot is of people kind of coming to us who they're saying like, oh, I'm doing all the right things, I'm working all these strategies, but actually a lot of the times they don't cover their basics, they don't do the proper foundation work. And so the rest of the strategy can't work. And I just think it's really important to emphasize. And just one question that I have, I'm sure other people will be asking, but when you're looking at 3 to 4 people per organization, I know this came up in our last webinar, what do you recommend? I know you recommend kind of top down, like it's better to go more senior and then they recommend you down. But what would you say to people? Maybe kind of go as senior as you can, but
yeah, exactly. We touched on this on the other call. So if it's a small to medium-sized company, I would have a CEO on that list as one of the people you want to get in touch with. You want to have head of the department that you want to work for, or someone very senior in that department who you would potentially be reporting into. A second person, just in case, who's similar seniority in that function. And you want to have an HR person there as well. So what we actually talked on the other call, what happens a lot of the time, the CEO is most likely not going to respond to your request. If it's a large company and you are not in a very senior role, that doesn't make sense. It's better to contact someone who's, say, like the head of Europe or the head of the UK market. If it's a small to medium-sized company, or for startups, like even contacting founders, like when I was looking for to work for Seven, I got in touch with Evelyn and also 2 other people who I thought might be more likely to respond. But Evelyn actually got back to me directly. And this is an approach that worked for me in the past as well, when I was looking for jobs for myself. What happens is when you reach out to the most senior people you can possibly find, just kind of like send them messages being unattached to the outcome. Most likely they're going to ignore it, pass on it. But there will be times, and it happens a lot for my clients as well, where a CEO would be thinking, yeah, actually, we're trying to grow in that sector, and I know we'll have an opportunity coming up that maybe even your potential line manager is not aware about yet. So they would just forward it to the right person. And when this message is received by someone who's more junior compared to the CEO, they would be way more likely to have a conversation with you and give you an opportunity versus, if they were the person to decide. I hope I'm making it clear.
I think just to summarize, I think it's what you're saying is go as senior as you can. So when you're contacting people or for informational interviews, what we're talking about right now is when
this is actually for job applications.
Job applications. So
for job applications, you want to go most senior, and then your line potential line managers, and HR.
Well, I think for informational interviews, one of the tactics I used with our clients for years was contacting people who are established in the role or on the career trajectory you'd like to be on. And for many, I remember 1 or 2 people just come to mind now, and they may have contacted people that weren't, they weren't hiring managers, they weren't super senior, but what they were really clear on was they really loved their work, or they were really wanting to learn. And so informational interviews, it depends on your objective, doesn't it? If you're looking to make an application, Catherine's obviously recommending you go as senior as you can. Obviously, it depends on the size of the company. If you're looking for an informational interview, then that's a slightly different tactic. And the hiring manager.
It's best not to go to the hiring manager for the informational interview. You just want to be kind of prepared and clear, because in the informational interview, you may ask the questions like, what is the potential, what is the right role for me within this organization? What is the interview process like? Tell me about your average day or your responsibilities in the job. So by the time you go to very senior contacts in that space, you kind of want to be prepared and already, ideally have this information. So for informational interviews, I would go to people who are in a similar job title, maybe a tiny bit more senior, but not the heads of the team. Also, another good place to look are people who left the organization. So they sometimes are quite open, to giving a lot of information on their experience working there. That's another place to look for informational interviews.
I think with informational interviews as well, one of the I've used them since I started. One of my first ever clients wanted to go into working in festivals. She was working in pharmaceuticals, and she wanted to go into working to festivals. And she had absolutely amazing success with informational interviews. And I to be honest about it, it was a quality over quantity approach. It was really focusing on the organizations she was passionate about, doing her research. And I think when it comes to information interviews, one of the tactics I always recommended was flattery. So really share with someone like...
I call it compliment. Yeah.
I really love how, when you wrote this piece or did that, and it's very specific, you're showing you did your homework. Getting back to a point, Joe in the chat box has just asked, are we talking about applying for a role to contact these people in advance, or when you're approaching without an open role?
When you network on LinkedIn, you don't care if they have a role open or not. So you are basically deciding what kind of organizations you really want to be with, what kind of function would you love to be in those organizations, and then you are introducing yourself. So we'll talk about the structure of the message a little bit later. And so a lot of the time, there'll be no opportunities in those companies. But some of the time, So because I said there's a majority of available jobs that don't make it to recruiters or online boards. So when those roles are open and available, people you are reaching out to will be able to tell you, oh, by the way, yes, we have this role opening up. What luck that you're reaching out just at the right time. I actually heard that a lot, and from my clients as well, that some people like, oh, this is kind of a weird synchronicity. But in a way, it's also a numbers game. I actually haven't seen someone who's gone through those 100 contacts once they've decided what is the right place for them to focus on, and when they were feeling quite passionate about the kind of companies they were reaching out to, and for them not to get a job that they wanted. So it's only if people give up after they send 20 messages and they feel like, oh, this is not working, is when people didn't actually get the results that they wanted.
And also, can you just remind Jo, what was the statistic again that you gave at the very beginning? Maybe she missed that.
Yeah, so it's 80-20. I mean, also depends on seniority. For more junior roles, there are more opportunities that are going to online boards and recruiters, so 30-40%. When you're in a senior role or mid-level role, it's about 20-80 split. So 80% of the roles are you can get through networking, or are being filled through networking, and 20% of the roles actually make it online.
Exactly. So I think, Jo, that's another thing with strategy around job, like actually applying for jobs. You've got to, you don't want to put all your eggs into the sort of advertised role basket. You want to be doing a mix of, there's some advertised roles, great, and then you want to be approaching companies that you just want to work for and you're interested in. And you also, I always recommend to people, always be doing some form of strategic networking, even when you're in a role and you're happy, or even if you're sort of like, oh, I've got an advertised role I really like, or I'm going about this. Informational interviews have led some of our clients, Seven's clients, to some phenomenal job opportunities, jobs that were created around them. So, I mean, if that is the ideal scenario,
it's not unusual that you talk to someone just to get an idea what it's like working for the organization, when they say, oh, by the way, we have this opening, like, would you mind me passing on your details to my boss? So that's definitely.
Francois has asked, how far in advance do you recommend reaching out to different organizations? Do you mean when you're thinking of working for them?
So it's good just for, it doesn't matter how far in advance, because, so I don't know if you're talking about internships, like certain internships are being, applications need to be put through at a certain time. But on overall, I would just say, make sure you do the first step that we talked about. Figure out where you're applying, which roles you're applying for, get your research done, and then go about making all of this, make almost it like a, develop a habit, like almost develop like a marathon for 21 days. Decide every day I'm going to send 5 requests to connect with 5 people, and do this for 21 days nonstop until you go through your entire list.
Yeah.
And by that time, you should be having a lot of conversations and start getting interviews already. Some of them will not, a lot of them will not materialize, but they'll be, they may also materialize later. So you're expanding your network anyway. But on the flip side, I have a lot of clients who got themselves jobs, and they faced way less competition when they approached their search in this way.
Yeah, and I think definitely right now as well, look at smaller companies if especially if you're looking at changing career, transferring your skills. I mean, with somebody like myself, when you're a founder, you could have we've had several people come and I've created roles around them because I thought, okay, weird, this is like a really amazing mix of skills and experience. Like, this is too good. We need, we actually need someone to do all these things. So I think it's about being creative, but putting yourself out there. So Catherine, let's kind of take a LinkedIn profile and kind of get into actually, the kind of basics that people need to cover.
Let me share my screen. So we had 2 people volunteering their LinkedIn profiles on this call. Let's go to Kulsum, and I hope I pronounced it correctly. Well done for getting in there first. Can you see my screen okay?
So I'm just making it large, so everyone should be able to see that, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
And can you focus in, Catherine, just to make it much bigger? Can you just
Is
focus
this-
much
is this-
bigger?
How's that?
Yeah, I think that's a lot better.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just let us know, everyone, once you can see. I think we can see now.
Yeah. So, Kulsum, I had a quick look, like while we were preparing, like once you sent this your LinkedIn, could you quickly drop in the comment box, what type of roles you're applying for, just so I can make it a bit more relevant, this review process, or what's your ideal role? So overall, I had a quick look at this, and I thought it was clear, it was well filled in. So there were a lot of things going on here, like including recommendations. So all in all, I would say this is already a well filled out profile. So maybe it will be a little bit less interesting for all of you, because there aren't plenty of blatant mistakes on this profile. So well done, Kulsum. This is a well prepared profile. So some of the points that I would say, so what's working and what would I improve? And Evelyn, I'd love to hear like your comments on this as well. So everyone, very important to have the about section filled in and make it short and sweet, like what Kulsum did. She quickly explained that she's an office administrator. She has 5 years of experience, competent at maintaining files. So these are our responsibilities, the functions that she can do: managing financial claims and generating expense report. To be honest, this is one of the best practices that I would say for writing up your professional background profile. So the only thing I would add here is, so this is very clear, very quickly for someone to understand what she's about and how she could fit into their organization if she's looking to apply for similar kind of jobs that she's in right now. If you're looking to move away from what you're doing right now and do something slightly different, so this section is very useful to position maybe the places in your experience that are better aligned with your ideal future jobs. So because here you can really flesh out maybe some of the job functions that you did over others, so that they can take a look at this and say, okay, that makes sense. These are the sections of their LinkedIn we should be paying attention to. So basically, if you want to change career, this is a good place to talk about what you want to do or what relevant experience you have there. But keep it short. People if there was one, people were asking me, so as a recruiter, how are you reading the resume? And I've been recruiting for 12 years. And to be honest, as I was recruiting, I didn't know a lot of those best practices for writing up resumes. That was not my job. My job was to quickly look at the resume, a LinkedIn profile, and decide if I want to pass on this candidate or present them to my client. And so the things that I was actually doing without understanding this, what a perfect resume looks like, is basically the shorter the better. The more to the point, the better. The more it's bullet pointed, the better. So definitely, so nothing more than, so actually I'm kind of like going into the resume land, but let's look at this profile and just, so that's what.
Catherine, sorry to interject, but Kulsum has just gotten in touch to say he's considering moving up from this, and should I mention that I'm looking to move into greater responsibilities? And actually, just before you answer, Catherine, one thing I was looking at with the about section is it's very limited in that it's just describing what you currently do. And I think that's, and Catherine, I know you were just sort of going into the CV sort of side of things, but one of the biggest, when you're looking to do more or get a step up, obviously what you need to do is obviously talk about what you're good at, but focus more on the value that you can add. Because if you're just focusing on like the chronological kind of like what you have done or what you can do right now, especially on LinkedIn, as you would probably attest, Catherine, you're sort of limiting yourself, aren't you, to
you want to basically be your own salesperson. I mean, I know many people I work with, they don't like to boast about themselves or their experience, but fortunately or unfortunately, that's your job to do so when you're going through the interview process. Once you've gone through it, you can go back to being your humble self. But while you're job searching, you want to really talk about your aspirations, the things that you are really capable of, like what Evelyn mentioned. And one thing I would mention that I would add to this about section is a sentence about Kulsum's achievements, which is very important. Many people miss. They just say, you know, what you do. So you maintain files, manage financial claims. So there's, you know, tons of people who know how to do that. So you want to add, how are you special, or what have you achieved that's over and above? And what works really well for that is if you put some kind of statistics, and so some sort of numbers on it. So maybe, I don't really know accounting space so well, but you know, in general, you want to talk about either the amount of revenue that you helped company to generate or the team. And again, this will not be, you know, 100% delivered by you, but just put some sort of a rough number on it, even though there are other people involved or whatever. So the amount of revenue you managed to generate, the amount of cost you helped to save, the percentage, you know, you can even say amount of time that you saved on the project, or how much more efficient you made it. So actually, like numbers in terms of, you know, percentages, pound signs, so some kind of figures that really help people to quickly see that, you know, what you've managed to achieve there. So very important.
I think numbers are really, really important. I think even just here, you've mentioned managing financial claims. So it's like, you know, in the managing of those financial claims, like how much are those worth? And, you know, there's always ways there to show.
So yeah, how many years of reporting have you done? Or, you know, something that kind of makes it look impressive.
Yes.
And don't worry about boasting. I mean, that's kind of what you have to do for now. So add your achievements. I even give my clients this kind of career achievements journal where they have to talk about, they have to fill it in with their 5 top career achievements, where they talk about what was the situation, like what did they do about the situation, how they helped to overcome the obstacle or help go after the opportunity, and how did it, what statistically it looked like. So talking about the numbers, the cost reduction, the revenue opportunities, and then they can use that to talk about it in their interviews, because that's what people want to hear. They don't want to hear that, yeah, everyone knows what that job, what responsibilities it require. They want to know, how do you do this job differently from other people? Why are you the best candidate for this job? And then you also use those statistics for your LinkedIn, for your resume. So big point. So not only in about section, but also as you go throughout your experience, you want to, oh, perfect, look at this. Kulsum, she actually wrote down her achievements in here. So that's fantastic.
Yes. Very good.
Perfect. Yeah. Anything else, Evelyn? Anything else you want to add for now?
The only thing I would say, Kulsum, and Carolina, thank you for your question. We'll get to that in a second. But Kulsum, the only thing I would say is your photo is not. It's obviously a lovely photo, and you look very happy and attractive in it. But I would say it's not, especially if you want to step up and have more responsibility. I think it's clearly a personal photograph. It also, I often would say to people, I think having a plain background, and I think where your head and your shoulders are more.
I actually want to show the other profile we're going to review. So Emma's photo looks very professional. Clear background.
Actually, you know what? One of the things that I notice a lot is the image that the role that you want to get. You can portray that in the photo that you choose. You can actually show, that you're serious, you're ready for more responsibility, and you're sort of business ready. I think, an image is so powerful. Don't you agree, Catherine?
Absolutely. Like, it's got to be aspirational, the kind of professional that you are becoming, even if you don't feel you're looking just yet. Just try to create the best picture. You don't have to. So I just wanted to share, this is the other profile that we will review, Emma Greval's profile. She's also on this call. Thank you, Emma. So as you can see, so this picture is clear, like it looks very professional. The background is just gray. So this is a smile on the face. So this is I would say this looks more professional than the other picture, even though the other picture I also think it's lovely. But if you don't have like a professional camera person to take a picture,
I would say, honestly, I would say go and spend a few pounds, because, you know, it's not expensive. I would actually say to people, if you're looking to get get a role that's going to pay you more, invest. We have coaches and all sorts of people coming to us all the time, and the difference in, you know, people send me their LinkedIn profile, and the difference that I think in our perception of someone who has a professionally taken photo or not, I think it's quite big.
yeah.
So I would say also, I think the example of Gemma's, you know, her face has a lovely smile and she's filling the profile circle. And I think when you're very small on LinkedIn, you will stand out. If you look to the side, Catherine, there, you see the people that, you know, there's people that just to the side, to the right, if you scroll.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If you think of how small that is, you can stand out and beam if you fill that space. And I think actually Gemma's is probably an excellent example of how to do it right, how to do it well.
Yeah.
And I think this is a lovely picture, of course it is, but it's definitely not professional. I think if you want more,
I would just say, yeah, in the meantime, if you don't have a professional photographer because we're all on a lockdown, just, you know, have your partner or your friend to take a picture of you against the white wall of your headshot with a light smile on your face.
Yes. That's a good interim for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so another point I wanted to mention. So what Kulsum's done really well. So she kind of summarized quickly what she's doing there, right? So providing office admin support for various teams. And she's really gone and really talked about her achievements, which is wonderful. Like, I haven't had a chance to properly read them, so I don't know if that would be something.
Well, I mean, I think what we're doing here is incredibly realistic, because people skim through your LinkedIn profile. So it would actually be inaccurate for us to have properly read this. This is what recruiters do.
Yeah. So the one thing is, like, I would recommend is try, and so you see how I have to go see more here, and she left some space here. So most people are not going to click on see more, right?
Yeah.
So most people would just look at whatever you can see here, and they're going to move on. So Kulsum, you want to narrow down. So first of all, you don't want to put more than 3 to 4 bullet points on your LinkedIn per each position. On your resume, you can do a little bit more, even though I don't really recommend. But for LinkedIn, you want to make it even shorter. This is a bit of a shorter representation of your resume. So even, 2 to 3 points, and make the first point or the first 2 points your achievements. And then add, 1 or 2 points on your responsibilities after that.
Yeah, I think it's really nicely formatted, but as Catherine's saying, there's too much white space, and you're making your profile very long, which kind of feels arduous for people to go through. So you want to kind of be succinct, be efficient. Yeah. Also think how busy people are.
Yeah, even though it's like bullet pointed, which is great. And another thing I actually want to mention that the Kulsum's done well. I see that she used a similar way of calling responsibilities. So she said completed, demonstrated, nominated. So what I see people do quite often, they say completed, demonstrating, nomination for, which makes it harder for brain to process. So I recommend, if you use a certain way of, like, Evelyn, I don't know what that's called, what I'm trying to explain, but I think you're getting the point, right? So either you are using the nouns or the verbs to describe each one of those bullet points for the ease of reading it.
Do you mean sort of using active verbs and using the same tense?
Yeah, exactly. So
it's kind of past tense. She's saying nominated, approved. It's in the past tense.
Yeah, so here, like, she's doing this quite clever. She said entering, corresponding, booking, then proficient. Okay, like, it's okay if it's one of them. I just see some people, they kind of start in a very different ways, start the bullet points, and it's quite confusing, and you really have to stop and look, and people just don't do that. Just think about, like, people really skim. And so whatever the major overarching points you want to for people to take away from this, just put them at the top, 1, 2, 3, as short as you can.
And actually, just another, I think that's a really good example, reading through that's very well formatted. But honestly, if I was looking at that, there's no numbers. If you have some numbers, say, managed a team of 3, saved £30,000, had a budget of 100,000, or, whatever it is, it's when you're skim reading, numbers really make sense and they kind of pop. So I think that's.
So we have 15 minutes left. I don't think we'll have time to review the second profile. What do you think, Evelyn?
I think there's a few questions I just want to get to.
Yeah. So should I just give just a few quick tips on just to close off this profile? And I think I'm afraid we won't be able to review Emma's. So I like it that you added a lot to it. So your education, your volunteer experience. As far as you think this is useful to your next step, definitely add it on. Another really important point for everyone to pay attention to is this part of skills and endorsements. This is something that the search machine, like the search engine behind LinkedIn, really quickly picking up on. When someone is looking for keywords like customer service, I mean, no one's really looking for teamwork. So best to add here something that's your competency, core competency or responsibility, or skills specific for the type of job you're looking for. So add it here, and hopefully you can ask people to get some endorse you for those skills.
Yeah.
So this is something that, when recruiters look for, LinkedIn picks out from here a lot, and also from the keywords throughout your LinkedIn profile. But this is a very important point to look for. And so when you are aspiring to be in a different type of role from the one you are today, you want to pull up a few job postings that are similar to what you're looking to achieve with your next career step. And you want to look for the buzzwords, for the type of words, the way they call responsibilities or skills that they need. And you want to bring them into your resume. So you want to kind of see them throughout your resume, in your professional background profile, in your about section on the top, throughout your responsibilities, and in the skills at the bottom.
And one other thing that I often think is and sorry to jump ahead if I am, but one area I find people really aren't maximizing is the recommendations. So this is a good one, because you have someone.
This is a very good one. Well done. Mm-hmm. And you've given one, which is a good way to ask for recommendations. Give one to someone, and then to ask them to write.
I would definitely say try and get 3. If one person says something great about you, that's fine. But if people say something great about you, it's probably true. And LinkedIn is a public, live professional forum, so we really do kind of believe what we read. So I think go for it. Especially if you want to change industry or get a promotion. Be tactical about it. Contact people who are in senior positions. Let them know, like, hi, Catherine, I'm looking to make a move up. I'd really value, a recommendation from you that focuses on X, Y, or Z, because I'm really looking to put, if you don't ask, you don't get. And I really think recommendations, I always read people's recommendations quickly. I really do.
Yeah. There are a couple of other things that are important to mention that's important for your search. So once you have I hope you guys, you got sort of the basics of what's important to have in your LinkedIn resume profile. And I hope, Kalsum, the way you've put it together looks like it's well thought through, well researched. So I hope you also got some tips in terms of things that you could change as well.
We do have a few other questions actually just before we move on. So I'll go up actually to Carolina. So Carolina mentioned, why are numbers so powerful if they can be somewhat subjective? For example, a certain revenue number might be big or small depending on the organization or the reference the person judging is using, which actually is a really good point. Like if you're bringing in, salesperson bringing in revenue of like £40,000 a month, in different contexts, that could be really impressive, or it might be, oh, like that's
No,
not.
definitely use something that's impressive for your specific industry. I had a client right now who's in trading, and he's managed to make 5% profit on his portfolio during the COVID-19 outbreak, when a lot of other traders were, -10, -15, if not more, because of this crisis. So he's put it on his about section as, one of the last things. So he said, I'm very, I forgot how he phrased it, but agile and quick thinker. For example, I've managed to achieve 5% profit during the COVID-19 outbreak. So 5% profit is not amazing overall yearly profit on the portfolio, but it is impressive in this context. So definitely use something that's impressive. If you think your potential employer will be looking for you to bring $1 million contract, and you say that you've been bringing in, 100,000s, that's definitely not something to add there. But try and look for, you don't have to put only pounds, sterlings on it or dollars. It can be other, it can be percentages. It can be,
Percentages, I think, are a strong way of doing. You've increased the ROI by 25%. You've increased their social media following by 30%. I mean, that could literally be 15 people, but the percentage kind of can cover, I think, the subjectivity and make it more relevant. Hopefully that helps you, Carolina. Moving on. So Francois has asked, how many positions should you include in your profile? And then Marcel asked another question, which I tried to answer actually. Marcel said, how many paragraphs do you recommend having in the about section? I said 1 with a maximum of 4 lines, but I'd be interested to know what you think, Catherine.
Same, 4 sentences.
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
Again, so that they don't have to show more.
Some people put in a thesis, and I think that is when you're like a little bit overkill in your, selling yourself. How many positions should you include in your LinkedIn profile, Catherine, would you recommend?
It depends. I mean, you want to include everything that's on your resume. You want to bullet point them shorter than your resume. If you've, some people changed a lot of jobs. So sometimes they just put one heading over it to say like internships, and at least 5 internships, or, other engagements, or other, I don't know, what else could you call that section? And so they basically list all of them within that. If you feel like you've had too many changes, but otherwise it should reflect accurately what positions you've held over the years.
Okay, and I think that's that. Carolina said, yeah, it makes sense. And then Kulsum said, so if I research potential new employers, I can then connect with them on LinkedIn. How should I best network with them? Well, I think let's do you want to stop sharing your screen, and we can just, or should we show the tech? Well, we can get to the tech part in a second, actually, because we need to
I'll share it in a moment, because it's part of the answer to that question.
Oh, right, okay, go for it then.
Yeah, so once you have your research done, and then you have your LinkedIn profile looking good, so obviously like what you're going to move on to is to start approaching people, because we don't have a lot of time. Let me just give you maybe quick bullet points.
I was going to say, Catherine, if you can, we might run over a few minutes just to kind of make sure that we maximize the.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, so far as people are able to stay.
If you're okay with that,
a lot to share. We do this in a 9 to 12 session program, so you guys are just getting low down in one go. So enjoy.
We struggle to get it all into 1 hour, so we're doing our best.
So the best practices for approaching these people. So obviously, first of all, you're gonna ask them to connect. You may have some free LinkedIn direct messages, and you want to use that for your top potential, top people to contact. Besides that, you want to go to connect, and you want to include a personalized message, and it only allows you for about 200 characters there. So it has to be short and punchy. And then you follow up with a longer message. Whether it's a short and punchy one or the longer one, it most likely it's really useful that it includes these 4 elements. So the first one is, you got to start with a bit of what Evelyn said, flattery, or you can call it compliment, or you can also call it a personal touch.
Yeah.
So something you notice about them, and you want to mention that you are, you really appreciate what the company does, or you really appreciate, you're really impressed by the career that they've built or the role they're in at the current company. So look at their profile and find something that you could compliment them on. Or also here, you could, if you can't think of anything, see if there are maybe connections you have in common, or maybe you went to the same university, or so the first part of it is a personal touch, just to make sure once they see it, they know this is not some automatic message by a bot, this is from a human, and they actually looked at your profile without just saying, I looked at your profile, but going like, wow, I'm really impressed by what you've managed to accomplish at this company, or how quickly you progress through the ranks. So step 1, if you're taking notes, personal touch in the form of compliment, flattery, or someone you know, or something you've done in common. Second point, you want to quickly get to literally in a few words, why you're contacting them. What is the reason for your contact? So be straightforward. Like, people on LinkedIn, they know no one's there just to socialize. People know LinkedIn is designed for doing business. So be quite direct. So either you are requesting an informational interview, because I'm really impressed by what you managed to achieve at Google. I would love to have an opportunity to ask you a few questions about your day-to-day or your responsibilities, because I'm interested to potentially apply for jobs at Google. Or you can say directly, because I'm currently considering opportunities, or I'd love to apply for potential roles at Google now or in the future. Keep it open, because you don't know if they'll have jobs right now. So you don't want them not respond to your request because they don't have any positions at this moment. So number 1, personal touch. Number 2, why are you contacting? Mention it really in a really brief way. Point number 3, what you have to offer. So sometimes you won't have space for it in the connection request, and that's fine. You can follow up in the message once they've accepted the request. So you want to just briefly mention your most relevant experience or skills. And again, like 1 paragraph, 3 sentences maximum. And point number 4 is call to action. So what do you want them to do as a result of that? So ideally, so what I've seen works the best is asking people for 15 to 20 minutes of their time on a call. So could we please schedule a call next week for 15 to 20 minutes? So don't leave it open as in, let me know what you think, or just be specific. Or can I email you my resume? So ideally, you kind of want to ask for a quick phone call to discuss your experience. That's that.
Can I mention a few things? So one, what you've described, I think, is a great way of doing it. But one thing I would say is just to give you an example, I started coaching in 2008, 2009, and when I was kind of coaching people around how to change career using this strategy, specifically information interviews, I definitely saw more success in the earlier days because it was lesser known. It was kind of an American thing, really, and LinkedIn wasn't as advanced or as kind of used as mainstream as it is now. So the one kind of thing I would probably improve on that, and really this is for the individual to think about, is how many people are going to email. I mean, I get emails all the time. Hi, I'd like to be a coach. How can I become a coach? And there's that's the email. That's it. And it could be, I'd love to set up a coffee, a call. And I'm just kind of like, there's no hook. And if someone goes to my website or goes to my profile and sees, I don't know what they might do. But the point is the more research that they do, like if they find something that catches my attention and helps them to stand out. So they might say, I really like the recent webinar series you did on Instagram. It's like that gives you like a point. It's like, oh, you bothered yourself to go to the Seven website and see, or Instagram and see we're doing, a webinar series. But someone might go deeper. They might find my personal profile on Instagram, and they might, you know what I mean? And they might see like a collaboration that I'm working on that came out in some random, I don't know, article or blog or someone else's Instagram. So that I think, depending on how important that person is to you in terms of, you really admire their work, you really want to connect with them, I think invest more time into being more specific, because you want to catch their attention, and you really want to go for sort of that 5-star hook where they're like, oh, you should do a little bit more than just a quick search on Google or Instagram to find out this about me, or something that's very dear to their heart. Like, I recently saw that you were, on their Instagram or their Facebook, maybe if you can access that they were volunteering, and it's, like they love tigers or something. And they were, it's just really do try to stand out, because it's the difference between someone sort of going, will I write back or will I not? Because for them, they don't care. It's nothing to them. But for you, it could be literally, a door opening to something amazing. That's the only.
Absolutely.
It depends on where the person is at. But I do recommend really do your research and go for.
It may seem time consuming, and it is, but it's just as time consuming to, applying tons of jobs online and not hearing back. So this way you're also kind of taking charge of your career and directing it where you want it to go, not just depending on what is coming up online. So it's worth investing your time into it, because then you really save.
Sorry to interrupt, but do you have an example of a template or an email there to show people, or can we?
Actually, I could share. So this is just something quite basic that one of my clients did, so that got good responses. So just guys, also before I send it, just so you know, so in order for you to receive one response on LinkedIn, you should be expecting to contact 10 people first to get one response. So don't get, if your message is really good, you'll probably get every 6th or 7th person respond to you. If your message is okay, good enough, it's 1 in 10 ratio a lot of the time. If you're getting 1 in 15, 1 in 20 ratio, you really need to tweak your message. So here's I'll share this thing with you that just says my message is too long. I think I'll have to split it into. So this is a longer message that you can send once you've already sent the connection request.
I saw that you went to University of Y2. Oh, right. So they
found so a personal touch. I saw you went to university. I have recently moved. So now he quickly explains what he's after. So the person is clear on that and can decide if that's something that they can help with. And then, what do they actually want from them, the request? Like, I'd love to hear more about your journey and what you'd recommend, and the call to action. Could we meet for a quick coffee? So something like that. And as Evelyn was saying, if this is your really top priority option, you want to make the hook stronger. You want to, for example, I've been following your company's journey. I noticed you're opening an office in France, and I have relevant experience.
Yeah.
Specific job you've done that's similar to that.
Yeah. It also does not like, I had a client, and it was an interest in wine. So it doesn't necessarily need to be even, it could be a project they worked on, but it also could be just a passion that they have. And I mean, that's a great way to get people's attention. Also something that would impress them to say, oh, wow, you really sort of, the other point that I would make is if there's different levels of similarity. So if you went to the same university as somebody, maybe your message can be a bit longer because there's already kind of a bit of familiarity there. If you literally do not know the person, and you've done a bit of research, but you don't have an amazing hook, keep the message as short as possible. I get long messages sometimes, and I think it just shows someone is fairly clueless, and I don't want to waste my time on people who appear to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another quick tip that can make a big difference for you is once you've sent that message or even a connection request on LinkedIn, head over to this website called hunter.io, and there are similar websites like that where you can find out by putting the company's name, you can find out the way that their email address is written, in which format. So once you've contacted them on LinkedIn, at the same time, send them an email. Because people don't spend as much time in their LinkedIn box as they do in their, corporate email box, obviously. So this can help you really skyrocket your responses if you do both at the same time. And some people will not like, they'll feel like they're being a little bit harassed, but others will actually appreciate that you are being creative and you really have this kind of resolution that you want to get in front of this company. So I would recommend doing both at the same time.
Great. And Catherine, just to summarize before we move on, so when you're reaching out for informational interviews, make sure there's 4 elements to your email.
Or same for the applying for a job as well.
The same for applying for a job.
Yeah.
And the 4 elements are starting with a personal touch, so something you have in common, something you researched about them that they're going to be interested in, or that will show that you're genuinely interested in their work or a passion they have. And then the why, so why you're reaching out to them. I would kind of say, depending on, it depends, but I would sometimes say to people, maybe don't mention that you're looking for a job. This is something I was going to ask you, Catherine. I definitely, when I was coaching people around information interviews, I used to say, just stay away from the job thing at all. This is for information interviews. I would just say, I'm really interested. I would keep it very open, the language, and I would say, I'm really interested in exploring this as a potential career, so that they don't feel like that you're, I think when people feel like, are they going to ask me for a job? Like, it's kind of like, oh, that's an uncomfortable scenario that people just kind of jump to. And I get that quite commonly. Whereas if someone's like, oh, I'm kind of loosely interested in exploring, and it would be great. I used to say to people, right now you've got to call people. But before, I used to say like a fairly low commitment is a call as opposed to a coffee. If you prefer a coffee, ask for a coffee first, and then you can always move back to a call if they, if you kind of go back and say, I'm sure you're a very busy person.
Especially now, it's going to be a phone call.
Maybe a Zoom would be nice.
Yeah. Which is great for people in other locations, because now, like, no one has a choice. Everyone's,
exactly,
talking online.
Exactly. So, so the 4 elements are personal touch, your why. What do you think, Catherine, about when it comes
reason for contacting? I think there is a benefit in both. Like what you're talking about is, in a way, kind of puts people more at ease, that they don't have to have a job in order for you to for them to respond. But at the same time, some people may be more responsive if they know that they actually have a job and they need to feel it. So there is a specific reason why they would be talking to you. So some people are very friendly, that they would give you time of the day just to chat about their day-to-day and the company's culture, and others would only respond if they have a good enough reason to respond. So if they have a job and you sound to be like a good, like the right applicant, they would get in touch. So use your personal judgment on it. I think there's there's benefit in both. So maybe you could even say, I'm looking for this type of jobs, but I'm interested in expanding my network in this field, even if you don't have opportunities there now. So you could add that kind of touch to it as well.
The other thing that we didn't get to, and I think it's just worth mentioning quickly, Catherine, because I think Cornelia has said, please share the Chrome plugin you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
We're getting to it.
Let's do that.
Give us 2 minutes. But the other point to make was, when it comes to reaching out to people, obviously this is really a business development strategy in a way that we're describing, but it's always better to have warm leads. So it's always better to reach out to somebody that through somebody else, even if it's just an associate, or their father knows works for so and so, or it's there's some kind of link. a lot of the people I coached, I sort of helped them to, we had so much fun with this I used to love this stuff because it's kind of investigative and it's when it can be
like a treasure hunt.
I really liked the kind of ball, but the point is use the network you have. I know this is something Catherine would definitely recommend. Use the network you have and see, do you have any links to those organizations that you had already researched at the beginning of this? And is there any warm links that you can start with? And one of the other things to always do is it's like a chain. When you start speaking to people, always ask them, find, maybe have somebody in mind. I certainly coach people to do this. But, if I was talking to Catherine, I might say, Catherine, that was, thank you so much for sharing. As you know, I'm really interested in learning more about, recruiting in the city, for instance. Is there anybody else that you could you can recommend that I should be speaking to? So you kind of create this daisy chain effect, and you're sort of building and building. But the point is, you then ask Catherine, like, would you mind, CCing me into an email or introing me in a quick email? So even if you start cold, you very quickly develop some warm leads, and you can build on that. And that's the real beauty, I think, of natural networkers. I think that's what they're doing. It intuitively.
Yeah, it's something that I was going to mention is like, so before you even go outside of your network, first just go through all of your connections on LinkedIn. There might be people that you forgot that work for those organizations or the types of jobs that you want to be in. I mean, I have 5,000 connections, so like I'll never be able to get to the bottom of it. But if you have like 500, 1,000 connections, even 100, just start there. Just look through your connections to begin with. There also happens quite a lot that people move companies and you don't know about it. So I was just actually, someone I worked with is now working for Facebook in HR, and actually one of my clients wants to get a job there. So I've just made the introduction. And I didn't know that. Actually, she brought it up. She said, "Oh, I want to contact this woman. You seem to be connected." So just start with your network to begin with. Having in mind, having done your research, what type of companies you want to be in touch with. Screen first your network for who can either is in those jobs and companies or can introduce you to them, and then start reaching out outside of your network with this more like cold approach that we talked about here.
I just wanted to get to a point. Joe mentioned, does it come off as a bit stalkerish? But I think I was speaking to somebody earlier, and I was talking about a personal brand and a marketing strategy, not to give anything away, but that's what I was talking about to this person earlier. And the point about anything is get into the right mindset before you start. I mean, that's what coaching is all about, right? If you feel like this is stalkerish, you're kind of, you don't want to be seen to sort of step over a boundary, you feel self-conscious about it, don't do it in that headspace, because you will get the result that you're sort of nervous about, which is you come off as stalkerish. Really, this is about, especially right now, this is about being proactive. Like, if you don't ask, you don't get. Now, there's ways and means of going about things. You can be really kind of like a bull in a china shop and kind of all over the shop and not get the result you want because your approach was off. And Catherine, you said it a few times today, use your own discernment, do the research, be strategic, think about the other person as well at the end of that message. What's going to appeal to them? Be short and sweet in your communication. That showcases that you understand you value their time and they don't have a lot of time. And use your common sense. A lot of it is really common sense. It's slowing down and it's thinking not about you and how you look. It's thinking about how will this come across to the other person? Where are they at? How busy are they? What's going to catch their interest? Even what time of day is going to be good to catch them. Maybe you see them on Instagram. They have their personal training session at lunchtime. Maybe they are doing.
That's quite stalky, yeah.
Well, I mean,
that's a good example. I think get as stalky as you can while you're looking for a job if you want to get into those companies.
But it's. I don't think it's stalkery. I mean, there's obviously a level to it that could be, but I think it's like, how much do you want this? You know, you don't.
And how much, think about you researching it, not stalking them. You're giving them your attention. You know, it's almost like you admire what they do and you're paying attention to what they're doing.
But it's like when I, back in the day when I was a graduate and I was learning cold calling, we used to come into the office at 8 o'clock on the day that we'd be cold calling in this lovely recruitment and training company that will remain nameless, but they taught me so much, even though I absolutely hated it. Every minute I absolutely hated it, but it was the best training I ever had. And we used to come into the office at 8 a.m. to start calling to speak to the decision makers. Usually it was kind of director level, heads of, maybe C-suite, it depended. But we would come in and get in there before the receptionist. And we would also stay after 6. And the point is, you're thinking, where are these people at? If you're a marketer, you're thinking, where do these people hang out? Where do these, it's just, that's.
Yeah, I mean, it would be uncomfortable for a lot of people to use this approach. It's more comfortable for people who spend a lot of time in business development and recruitment like we have. But in a way, this is what will make you stand out and will help you to get the kind of opportunities that you want. So in a way, if you can just switch on that way of thinking and approaching the process for, 2 to 4 months while you're looking for the job, this will get you amazing results. You don't have to live your life, stalking, looking after everyone's, people's every single comment on LinkedIn. Because actually that's another point. So I was saying just purely emailing people and getting their email addresses. So that's not even enough in terms of the amount of attention that you are spending, giving them attention, paying attention to what they do. Even more so, what's really important is once you've connected with these people, pay attention to their LinkedIn posts. Anytime they post anything, like and comment on it.
Yeah.
So you will be in front of them and obviously put a thoughtful comment in there, so they'll start noticing your name, perhaps. So for sure, add a comment. If you just like it, people don't always look who like the post. And what will happen also is when you post on LinkedIn, I guess we'll have to put it into a separate topic of, what kind of things to post. But what happens is that they start seeing your posts as well. So that's how the algorithm works. If you're seeing their updates, if you're commenting on them and liking them, they're able to see your updates on LinkedIn. So that's a very important part to do. Once you've reached out to so many people, is to comment and like everything they post.
Ooh, that's a great tip there, Catherine. So it's good to think about the algorithm of LinkedIn. Basically, it's a social networking tool. Be social. I think that's one of the top tips.
Yeah. And people tend to hire other people who they know, like, and trust, right? So even though they don't know you personally, you want to find ways to develop this know, like, and trust factor. And you do that by paying attention to what they do, commenting on what they do, posting yourself so they get to see what are you specialist in, what's on your mind, what's your unique perspective on the market they're operating in. So it's also another, I guess it's an additional tool for you if you want to make it even more effective. Your approach to working.
Just because we're getting to time, but can we screen share and show our amazing tool?
Is Coulson still on the call, do you think?
Just to sort of let everyone know. So it's called, are you sharing your screen, Catherine? Oh yeah. Oh, thank you. I think some people it's getting late for them, so we're just wrapping up. So
if Coulson doesn't mind, Coulson, we would like to kind of show how this extension works in your profile. If you are really against it, please raise your hand now. It's a personality predictor.
Yeah.
We'll give you 3 seconds to protest.
She said yes, but I think before your question.
So the extension is called Crystal Knows. So maybe, Evelyn, could you type it in the comments so that people...
So, and I'll just give you a little understanding of this. So Crystal Knows it's basically, it uses 4 of the most kind of well-regarded personality tests. So DISC profile is the most predominant one. So you're put into 4 categories: dominant, dominant, influential, compliant, and I can't remember what S is.
Social?
But anyway.
I think social.
Sorry?
Social, I think, yeah.
So it uses, that's one of them. Then the Enneagram is another one. Myers-Briggs is another one. And I can't remember the fourth one. But essentially what Crystal Notes have done is they've integrated all 4 personality tests into one. And they essentially kind of break it down in a really, I find it really refreshing. We use it, we've been using it for with our hiring for about maybe nearly 2 years, and I've been using this Chrome extension since it came out, actually, which is about 18 months ago. Oh, we just lost the screen. Coulson said she's a female, so I'm not sure where the confusion there has been, but I think it's the app may have confused you. So sorry about that. It's nothing to do with us. But Catherine, do you want to talk about it? This is essentially the Chrome extension, and you can use it on LinkedIn, but Catherine can kind of just go through it a little bit more.
So why it's so important, I mean, why it was so useful for me when I discovered it actually after going through application process with Evelyn. Now I use it on, every new potential client I speak to. I quickly look at their Crystal Notes profile. The reason it's so useful, it mentions their, it predicts their personality. It's not always 100%, but I've tried it on many people I worked with, many people in my personal network, and it's quite freakishly precise 90% of the time.
Great. Yeah.
And so if you want to be this like kind of ninja of the, the job hunting world, really find this kind of job that's a treasure. So this is just an extra layer of refinements that you could add, is how you put your message across to these people. So there are certain people that prefer very direct and clear communication. Hi, I want to find out about this. Let's schedule a call. Goodbye. There are people who would love for you to share a personal story, to add a personal touch. There'll be other type of people who would love to see some numbers, of things that you've accomplished and in all these sorts of things. So for people you really care about getting your message across to them, you can use this tool to find out what their personality is likely to be like. And beyond that, like, it's amazingly actually gives you kind of example of messages of how you would approach those people. So almost like templates. So I'd love for Coulson to comment if this sounds like her in terms of communication style. It says that she's deliberate, well thought out communication, and usually dislikes rushing through important conversations. Calm, warm tone while encouraging others to share their thoughts. So when you're speaking to Coulson, you want to guide the conversation with questions, offer helpful, constructive feedback, and take the lead. So you may think that this is quite generic for a lot of people, but you'll be surprised once you've taken a look. There are very different answers that come up for those different types. And so beyond that,
yeah.
Sorry?
Can I just jump in? I actually know a little bit about the startup, the company that's created Crystal Notes, and actually, you know how they do this? They analyze the way your LinkedIn profile is written. So
yeah.
if you're like in DISC, if you're a dominant, so dominant would be like on the red side there. Usually people would be sort of brisk. They mightn't have their profile filled in that much, and yellow would be eyes, so they're more flowery and they take more time and they kind of write more paragraphs. So part of it actually is analyzing the way that you write your LinkedIn profile. We've been using it for a long time, and it's really good. I would like, especially if you're outreaching cold and you want to get it right, and it's important.
It's pretty accurate. I also seen it on very short profiles, and it was also accurate. So I wonder if there's something behind that algorithm. I don't know where else they look, but it seems to be very accurate. So what's really cool about it, they have this conversation coach here. So whatever you need to do, so you need to email Coulson or call her or have a meeting with her, and then you can select the reason. So what do you want to do? Make a sales pitch, convince them to hire you. And this is an example of phrases you can use in your approach that will have a greater chances of her receiving your message well. So I'm curious about the processes and routines that you use. So here, see, like, because it mentioned that she enjoys when she's being asked questions. So you are showing your curiosity in the processes that she uses. So here are the example that you could use. You can even go further into specific like templates that you can use. Even the way you sign off and all the rest. It really is like a superpower once you get that sorted. And you can also use this for when you're interviewing, because you want to adjust your presentation to different types of audiences. Some people would love to hear your stories, and others would just find it really boring and would want you to get to the point faster. So use that for both approaching people and for interviewing. Yeah.
Catherine, just because I know some people listen to this and they don't watch, just so everyone knows, in the chat box, I've just put in a link which gives you 3 months free for this Chrome extension. So what Catherine is doing right now, it's usually, how much is it a month? 10 or 11?
22, I think I'm paying £22 a month for this. Yeah, so I would typically recommend clients to have it installed for a couple of months while they're looking for a job and then switch it off. But I switched it on and I just got really into it. It's really helpful. I mean, it helped me to sign up so many clients that may not have signed up otherwise, that I decided that it's a really good investment. But it's even, for the moment, it's even free, which is amazing. I recommend you all to.
Right now, for COVID-19 support, Crystal Knows have made this free for 3 months until, I think I said July 13th. So the link is above, and I would say sign up and definitely use that when you're reaching out to people. And also you can take the Crystal Knows test for free. I mean, it's amazing. You can just go on there, create your own profile, take the test, and you can compare yourself to people like Oprah Winfrey and Bill Gates, which I commonly do, and I sometimes see similarities, which is quite nice for your confidence.
Yeah, you can see that in here. So I want to hear from Kosun. Does this sound like you? Does this sound like the kind of approach you would appreciate?
Yes, it does. Does this mean I'm a high maintenance employee? I wonder. I just was mentioning it's a personality type. Everyone has one. And I think it's, that's why some people are really good in certain roles and other people are really good in others. We need every type of personality. This is a comparison to you, Catherine, isn't it?
Yes. So I have filled out the test so they know like what I'm like, and they can see how much more optimistic I am over Kosun. What that means is when I'm speaking to her, I'll, if I want to sign her up as a client in coaching, I would be more focused on the process and the numbers, say the success rate of my clients over stories and kind of like generating excitement. So you can use the same it's neither is good or bad. It's just for you. If you have this information, you like in a way have a superpower, a key to that person's heart in a way, to open them up in the conversation.
I hope everyone who's still watching gets this tonight and uses this 3 months free to their advantage, because it's an amazing tool, and even just for your own self-awareness as well, because it integrates four of the best known personality tests. So Catherine, I'm just conscious we're getting to 8:30, so we've done 90 minutes of this and we still could keep going for hours, couldn't we? Hopefully everyone's gotten a huge amount there. Catherine, thank you. There's so many insider tips I'm sure people can go away with and sort of.
Yeah, I want you guys to type in the chat box, what are you actually going to use this week in your job search? What specifically from all of the things that we talked about?
Yeah, we would love
and also it would be great to hear what other topics you want us to cover as we continue. Webinars.
What we typically do is we send an email follow-up. We'll be sending it out tomorrow, and what we'll do is we'll confirm based on kind of the feedback we get normally is how we decide the next the next kind of webinar that we'll do. So if anyone is interested in any other topic, do let us know, and we will let you know tomorrow when the date for that, the most popular request will be. Rose said, thank you. You've both been so helpful. It's a pleasure, Rose. That's what we're here for. I find it really hard. I get so excited about LinkedIn, but I do. I just do.
I love that topic. Can I please do a webinar on that?
Well, one thing, Timmy said, great. Thank you, Timmy, Olean, Anna, Ollie, Pia, Joe, thank you guys so much for all of your contributions. And Andy said thank you both. One thing that we didn't cover actually that we could think about was posting content and how to use LinkedIn for your personal brand, because I think it's a great platform to use for developing your personal brand. And we honestly, it would take like its own webinar session, but there's a lot we could talk about there, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't have to be just for job search, but also for becoming a leader in your field, whether you're looking to change right now or not.
Joe definitely agrees. She said posting content. What we'll do is Catherine and I will come up with a nice angle on using LinkedIn, you know, really when you are reaching out, especially to cold people, but, you know, associates through your network. What they're going to do is they're going to look at your profile and they're going to see, have you written any articles? Even what you've contributed, comments to other people's articles. Have you been featured in any press? Do you have a blog? All of these things are your tools to showcase, especially if you're changing career, what you're able to do, not just like what you have done. That's the whole point of career change and promotion, is showcasing what you're able to do and where you are going to be able to add value. Essentially, in the future tense, you can use LinkedIn and, you know, content and thought leadership to really show your passion, your interest, and untapped potential. Which is kind of the point, isn't it, Catherine? That's her job.
Yeah.
So just to kind of finish up, just to let you all know, myself and Catherine, I'm the founder of 7 Career Coaching. Catherine Mante is one of our phenomenal career coaches, and as you can tell, has lots and lots and lots of experience in recruiting and helping people really kind of practically get under the skin of career change, promotion, leadership. There's actually a lot of amazing kind of aspects to Catherine's work. If anyone is interested in understanding how we work with individuals, you can, there's a call to action at the bottom. You can book a discovery call with one of our team. And if you just want to keep getting loads of more free expert advice from us during the quarantine, keep an eye out for our email tomorrow. You can watch all the previous webinars for free. We're going to just keep extending it while they keep extending the lockdown, and keep giving you free access to all of our experts during this time to hopefully help you out and help you move forward. So Francois said, is coming. We will.
Yeah. Thank you all for active participation. You know, we can't see you. It's so nice to have you all comment and really let us know what you're taking away from this and ask your questions. So yeah, come back to other webinars. We love that kind of engagement. Yeah.
And also you can rewatch, because I know, Catherine, you gave so many good tips. You can always just flick through the rewatch and just kind of type down your notes so that you're able to take it all away. Yeah. So Catherine, thank you so much for giving extra time tonight. I really think it was really valuable. And Carmen says, you are brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for all of your appreciation and your time. Have a very good night.
Stay well.
As always, we will see you soon. Tomorrow night, just in case, we have Supercharge Your Career Change. Basically, how you can use the quarantine to your advantage to work on your career change. I know a lot of people here, maybe you've already signed up, but if you haven't, you follow us and you can see upcoming webinars. We're going to have a few more coming up next week, which we haven't announced yet, but we will be tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you, Catherine. Bye, everybody. Have a good evening.
See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.